It doesn't get more All-American in my book than the states Texas and Pennsylvania. And finally, after, man, I've known this guy forever now, it seems like. Jay Baca, at Tweets of Jay Baca. Welcome to Hibiki High Spots. Welcome to the channel. I've done things with you on Kayfabe today, but man, it's a long time pally on Twitter and all that good stuff. What's going on, buddy? Thank you for doing this. What's up? Welcome.
Well. It is I, the quintessential stud muffin, and a goddamn handsome man. Just like a Rubik's Cube, the more you play with it, the harder it gets. Jay, so big, it's hard to keep from hurting her. Gertner.
God,
Hello, Travis. Hello, everyone.
I missed Joel Gertner. He was so good. So good.
Hello,
Jay. Welcome, man. No better way to welcome you to the channel in general than gimmick infringement. And that was on par for gimmick infringement. What's up, buddy? And like I said, real quick, where can everyone check you out once again? I said it, but it's your shit, so you go ahead and you say it.
Only on Twitter at Tweets of Jay Baca. I don't do any of the other, all the other horse shit and nonsense. Just Twitter at Tweets of Jay Baca. And you can find me every Thursday night on WLWstudios.com or TuneIn Radio on the Squared Circle Sound podcast with host Sean O'Brien. I host the 8 to 10 minute segment called the Lucha Lounge, where I review Lucha Underground and talk about Wrestle Circus and anything else I can think of.
All things that by the end of this show today, people are going to think that I hate, but I actually don't hate. It's just things that I would change about them. But we're going to get to all that. And for anyone that stops by the chat today, we're going to do our best to man the chat. Thank you for stopping by. I love these mid-afternoon streams. And I love going live in general. Thing is, sadly, Jay, last couple times I've done anything live, there's been a little bit of there's been a lot of tragedy. Let's get serious real quick. The past couple days, all our thoughts and prayers, all that good stuff, whatnot, whatever you believe in, goes out to those in Las Vegas, most definitely, all that stuff. And sadly, yesterday, lost Tom Petty. One of the most underrated songwriters of all time. Condolences to his family. And today, and I just put the video up twice because YouTube sucks because of copyright. It's a tribute video, but yes, Lance Russell, Jay. And we talked about this in DMs today off there about legendary Memphis announcer dead at 91 years old. And I mean, that's one thing that irks me. You know, he was 91 years old. He lived a great life, a full-ass life. He was still going, making appearances. It's not a tragedy. There's a difference, and I think people don't know that difference sometimes. This is not tragedy, just really sad, But, what can you say about Lance Russell that, Well, the sad thing is, in my opinion, a lot of modern fans don't know anything about Lance, Jay.
Unfortunately, yeah, that's exactly right. Most, they'd probably look at you like you had a couple heads. But I highly encourage anyone listening who's never heard of Lance Russell, to one quick YouTube search, Lance Russell, Memphis Wrestling, and a lot of great stuff there. They don't have everything, but they got a good little selection. Do you happen to know who owns that Memphis library? Little sidebar.
Do not quote me 100. I really don't think it's Jerry Jarrett. I don't know if it's Lawler. I know that channel, the Memphis Wrestling Channel, has done a hell of a job is getting as much content as they can. Like, they have the playlist year by year on it. You know what I'm talking about. Like, the source for that promotion's content on YouTube. But I don't know specifically who owns it. One thing about Memphis, I'll come clean about it. I didn't really get introduced to Lance Russell fully. I only knew of him in my younger days before the internet stuff on NWA when he had his year and a half run there in the really early 90s in the Jim Herd era. You know what I mean? So I didn't have a great first exposure, but it's just the more I've studied over the years. And my God, I mean, the voice for one, the sense of humor, on par. He was quick witted. Everything you would want, I feel, in a good announcer for the time, for any time, Timeless announcer.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes, very much so. He was like the kind of like the calm, a very calm presence in Memphis wrestling. There was a lot of craziness
Oh
going on around
God.
Memphis for many years. Just look up Lance Russell and Terry Funk promos. Those are gold.
Look up
Absolute gold.
well, not just promos. Look up pretty much the majority of storylines in that era of Memphis, and it's crazy because like
Sure.
for a promotion with storylines in the booking committee, you would assume everyone's passing around a joint when they write this shit. Jerry Lawler never touched marijuana in his life, and he was one of the main bookers down there. And it just blows my mind. These things they come with the Christmas creature comes to mind. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like
The
that.
Chris
I put it in the Lance Russell tribute
Leatherface.
video today. They did an angle with Frankenstein, a guy just in a
Frank,
box,
yeah.
and Lance Russell sold it, and didn't even bat an eye. Not to the very end, you know what I mean, when he thought he was off, but still, he sold it.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, did you have a
Those
lot
are
of
old.
exposure to him and your younger days, or was it later on, like me, through like the internet and all that stuff?
All through the internet. Absolutely. It was all YouTube, man. When I was in high school, circa 2006, 6, 7, 8. YouTube was much different back then, kids. Much different than it is nowadays. But that's a whole nother conversation.
I mean, you're making me
But
feel
yeah,
like fucking old man winter over here. You're talking about how back in my day of YouTube, and we were talking about how I was tape trading, like the tail end of it all fair. So
oh yeah.
now that I feel 54 years old, thank you, Jay.
Hey, it means you're wise if you make it that far.
I get
You're
age
you're a
does not
veteran.
bring wisdom, so that's the thing
You're the
about
veteran in the locker room to go to advice for.
it. There you go. Yeah,
But
Lance
yeah,
Russell though. Yeah,
YouTube had all the wrestling I could ever want. They just had all the videos up there. Memphis AWA world class.
yeah, and for those of you
Instead of
like
doing schoolwork,
the
watch
you
some wrestling.
modern
Instead of
fans
school.
that don't know, I would assume like they just flat out don't know. And that's not your fault. I mean, I would highly suggest checking out anything Lance Russell back then. It's worth your time for the most part. I mean, it's more good than bad. I feel. Um,
Mm-hmm. And they have the
let's take
Wolfman.
this in, Jay. We got to take this in because as everyone sees in the tagline and everything, this is called Debate It. This may be the last time
Yes.
episode we're going to see eye to eye. So let's cherish this part of the show. What are the
So fair.
origins of how this episode came together, Jay? Why don't you explain to everyone how this came to be today?
Well, there used to be a show on the Hibiki network by the title of Union Smack, where yourself and certain British individual
Yep.
would review pay-per-views, TVs.
It
I
was
think
a
it was a
retro review show, basically.
retro review show. Exactly. There you go. I think it was Capital Carnage UK, or it was One Night Only. One of those where it all started, and it just disagreements, really strong disagreements, just differing opinions,
Okay.
mostly from the British guy. Uh, you weren't completely innocent, but it was more heavily on
Well,
that
see,
guy.
I forgot the initial video or thread that this was based off of from the get, and now that we talked about it off air, my memories come back. I remember this springboarded off of. It was like the women's title picture in '99, something like that, right? Where
Yep.
Deborah had the title, and I
Yep.
blasted it. And by all means, I mean you
There
can
you go.
just hear the sentence I just said. Deborah is the women's champion. I buried it like it deserved to be because it was the shits.
Correct.
This guy. This guy gets on the cover. What? You didn't hate it.
I did no, I did not hate it. In fact, I find it it was just I like that style of writing, um, and I don't mind the women because it wasn't just a regular bra and panties match. There was a feud behind it. It wasn't just to throw out there. Um, and I popped for Shawn Michaels coming in, reversing the whole the whole decision and handing the belt over to Deborah.
Yeah, we did. I think we
That's
did. If
just
anything, I agreed with you on the end of that banter about at the time, TNA was their market, and that was their driving force as far as women. And as chauvinistic as that is now, I know all the snowflakes looking back. That's what got fucking tickets sold back then. That was a big part of the Attitude Era. So, but my thing was the Deborah reign. There were reign. I mean, let's say what you want about Sable. Everyone's had their 2 cents. The cranky old man Cornette, he's buried Sable. Done right in smaller doses, Sable things weren't terrible. The WrestleMania 14 mixed tag was okay. It got a mad reaction, a crazy reaction. That was sex
For
done
sure.
well in the storyline and TNA and all that with very little wrestling done right. But with the Deborah thing, it was just done oh so wrong. And I was just like, Jesus Christ. They didn't even try to mask it either. It was like, just literally with Deborah at that point, it's like, you might as well just send her out there topless. Because that's like literally every match was based around her breast. Every sentence, every line
Would have
fed
got a
from
tremendous
Gorilla
pop.
to Jerry Lawler. It was like, my God, tone down the testosterone a little bit. 99 there, Vince. Christ, you literally you turn on Raw at 99, and it's like you have a semi right from the intro. That's how much TNA was on the TV back then.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's just it's a different kind of presentation for sure, but it's one that draws. The old saying, "Sex sells." And I don't think there's really anything. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Some people, I'm sure, will disagree.
With a semblance of taste, though, at the end of the day, like you gotta have like a
Yeah,
shoestring amount of taste in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't make it completely
yeah,
fucking.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that.
And I'm not saying
Um,
that to come off to like
and
pander
Sable,
to the safe crowd and the snowflakes. That's not pandering. That's just smart business, covering your ass. Have a thread of class in it, I guess. Don't cross every line completely if you're going to do a TNA type storyline like that. And we're not talking about Test and Albert, guys. If you're just tuning in,
TNA, or total nonstop action.
Bill.
Yeah,
Uh,
yep. But Sable was so over. I mean, you had to be there, and I know you were there, but there may be some out there that were too young. Um, well, you could say I was too young. I was like 7, 8 years old watching this stuff. There's a fun fact for you. I told you off air about Barely Legal. I wasn't even 6 yet,
yeah.
so I
Yeah.
got exposed to this style of wrestling pretty early, man.
You got
And it
spoiled, is
just
what it
got
is. Because when I was 6 years old on my television, I was looking at Sensational Sherry and Dawn Marie, the original
okay.
Dawn Marie, not the hot Dawn Marie. There was a Dawn Marie in the '80s in the WWF who kind of looked like Bertha Faye, pretty much, and
Oh,
that's the eye
wasn't she
candy
at
that
the
I
first
had growing
Survivor?
up. So you little spoiled attitude era brats, I have no sympathy, none, no sympathy on the TNA. That you try fapping at the Bull Nakano and see how that works out for you. I'm just saying, and no, her hair's not sticky for a reason.
Hunter Blaze didn't do it for you, and
Eh.
wow,
Not till she went.
not a big tip of
Honestly, not a big Medusa guy till she went to WCW with like that Evan Courageous stuff. Then it was like, wow, she's a very attractive lady.
yeah.
Because they booked her,
Great.
they booked her like an athlete, like more like what we see now with women in the Mae Young Classic and stuff. They didn't book her as that. We'll get to that, and it's the only topic
Right.
that we're going to get to is definitely not just the evolution of women's wrestling and all that stuff. There's a for those that don't know, because you haven't been on the channel, and I don't know if any listeners have heard you on KP today, you are more on the lines of and I feel like it, and you'd probably agree with me, Jay. At this point in modern wrestling, there's kind of, and I don't want to say my side's purist, but more like that. I just think Lucha Underground, and I'm all about it. I don't think it should just be shut down. And I'm all about people liking different styles. But for me, it's not for me, and I know that. And it's just, I, I don't need this ultimate hybrid of pro wrestling with the silliness turned all the way up, like feeling like a video game mixed with a comic book. If I want those things, I'll indulge separately. I kind of want my pro, you know what I'm saying? So, but your end of it,
Mhm.
you have a show about Lucha Underground for Christ's sakes. You go to Lucha Underground shows. You are one of the. You may be the biggest. Actually, I'll flat out say it, the biggest Lucha fan I know right now on the face of the earth. It's not working for or related to anyone in that
Right
community.
on.
Um, but what do
Gotcha.
you think it is like? And I won't come out and say I hate Lucha Underground. I just know it's not for me. Like I said, what do you think that line is that divides fans like us on Lucha Underground specifically? Not to just point them out, but it's the first thing that came to mind. What do you think it is?
I think it really just boils down to it's not, and I really hate to sound so cliche, but I think it's really true in this case. Is it's not everyone's cup of tea. You know, I think that what really what it comes down to. I really enjoy it because it's like watching a movie that never ends. It just keeps going and going and going. It's about this underground wrestling club, and I remember telling my buddy when season 1 was starting up that this felt like the cops were gonna bust in at any moment and stop the whole show. It had that kind of look, that kind of feel. So I dug that, and that's what really hooked me. So, and I ain't gonna hate you because it's not your cup of tea, but I highly encourage anyone who may not have seen it to check it out. Give it a try.
And a lot of people can flat out point the finger right in my nose, literally touch my nose with the tip of the little fingies and say, well, you're one of those fans back in the day who reached out to a product like ECW that was different, and that's why you liked it. And I totally agree. You could point the finger at me if there wasn't one huge difference between Lucha and ECW. And I think Lucha totally breaks that fourth fucking wall, jumps the shark way more than like ECW did sometimes, many a time. And they came close a lot of times to completely jumping the shark. But I feel like Lucha does it every time they're on television. That's just my opinion. And I think that's what the ECW, yes, it had its moments that probably shouldn't have happened. The crucifixion of the Sandman comes to mind. Things that were so silly, it was just bad, and it was just horrible. But I feel like that
Turning his son against him
all that
and
stuff.
his wife.
But I feel like
That shit got deep.
ECW for
That shit got
me,
deep
when I
hits.
compare it to Lucha, ECW has more, and this is going to sound harsh, but that's not why we're here to cookie cut, are we, Jay? ECW was more of a semblance of an actual fucking wrestling promotion and not a television show, I think. Like, and I don't know. And I tried, and it's not like I didn't. I just flat out like turned and I scoffed at it. I watched the entire first 2 seasons of Lucha Underground. I didn't catch but more episodes than less of each season. I gave it a chance. It just,
Right.
I wasn't enjoying it, and I wasn't going to make myself watch it. And a lot of fans today, they should learn that with WWE products that bitch nonstop. But I don't know. I tried, and like you said,
I appreciate you trying. But I just think it's so freaking cool the way it's shot and just like all the elements of like horror and fantasy, supernaturals, because there's dead people walking around and wrestling.
Well, there was the angle where he tied a woman to a train track, right? Well, that was TNA. Excuse me, that was TNA. I think that did that.
No,
But there was another angle where a
her
woman was murdered or somebody was murdered. They've done multiple murder angles, correct?
She was fine.
Something like that. But still, I don't know.
Sting. Remember Sting kidnapped James Mitchell?
Yes. See, that's what I'm saying, though.
thing.
Every promotion is guilty of jumping the shark a couple times. But I feel like Lucha Underground is like multiple times an episode. Every week. I don't know.
Oh.
Let's move it off because
I love me some
it doesn't just stop.
Some whack angles. I really do.
It doesn't just stop at Lucha Underground. The Bullet Club is another big one with me and Jay, and this one is a little more. We're gonna mesh well better on it because I just said this on Kayfabe today. I just said on Slam Pigs in the past week with the invasion we had to talk about, that being the Elite video that came out. I love the Bullet Club essentially in the beginning up until about when the Elite was formed, when the Styles was kicked out. I was about the Bullet Club. I didn't love it, I should say, but I thought it was one of the more edgier, cooler things in wrestling that wrestling needed at the time in that 2012 period or whatever, where it was just stale. Everything was stale. Adam Cole was in Ring of Honor, guys like that, but they were just very young and not broken. Nobody was really broken out in 2012 except CM Punk. So when the Bullet Club initially came with Finn Balor, like, you would agree it was completely. I don't want to say revolutionary, but you've never seen a stable like that or a group where they flat out ripped off another gimmick. And this is before anybody knew they had the blessing of a Scott Hall or a Nash or any of those guys. So they thought that added to the perception that they were being rebellious. But as things came out, blessings. And I'm not saying the blessing of it is what turned me off of it. I just feel like things run their course. For me, at least, things run their. And I'm not saying this. The modern fan, I say it all the time. They have no patience, and by running their course, I mean 2 years of a stable, 2 to 3 years is a fair amount of time. I feel for a stable to run its course, especially in this day and age.
I'd say 3 years is about right. I don't know. It could go longer. It would just depend on the booking and the writing and all that good stuff. But as far as the Bullet Club goes, um, I was always at take it or leave it with them. Didn't really not exactly my cup of tea. I'll use that one more time.
There you go.
Yeah, just because I noticed they did all the DX stuff, the too sweet and the suck it. So that kind of like, meh. I've just shrugged pretty much and just moved on with my life.
Well, I'm floored because I could have swore multiple times that I've heard you say that you're a huge Bullet Club fan, but I was wrong. Look at that.
No,
Unneeded debate right there.
no, no, sir. I mean,
You
and yeah, like I said, I could take them or leave them, and then, well, I could definitely, I could leave the Young Bucks. That's for sure.
how does this whole cease and desist that both of them now that have come out? How's that? Do you play a side more? Or you kind of just like both people are petty in the long run. I don't really care. Or what's your whole take on this?
I'm not a big, I'm not a fan of the Young Bucks at all. Just I don't care for them at all. So it didn't bug me too much.
Do you think WWE's
I don't wish any ill will or anything like that towards them. No hate. Just don't care for their act at all.
That's something I've always said. As much I've like flat out shamed them for not like reaching out and trying to brand and come up with some of their own shit. Shame on them for falling and relying on somebody else's shit. It's lazy at the end of the day, and I've always called them out on that. But I don't want them like their families to like to go through anything. You know what I mean? I don't want them to like go completely bankrupt. You know what I mean?
No, it doesn't go that. I don't care that much.
Yeah.
I'm not that invested in any demise or anything like that. But just a lot of things I disagree with. Especially with their psychology, or lack thereof, psychology lack thereof. The way they work matches where they go toe to toe with like War Machine, and they're pipsqueaks, man. How am I supposed to believe that they're fighting War Machine or the Briscoe brothers or even the Haku's kids?
And that's a big problem I have right now with the main storyline on Raw with the Shield and the Mizraj. The whole perception is reality for us at the end of the day,
And they're very fucking cunty. Is that a word?
Oh, I can validate because I've said in the past couple weeks I've been blocked for no reason on Twitter from the Bucks, and I thought that I had never tweeted them in the past. I was wrong. Last year in the winter, I sent them a Han Solo GIF that wasn't being mean, a Han Solo GIF from Star Wars, and I sent Kenny Omega a Waylon Mercy quote or some joke, and that was enough to get blocked. months later, which tells me that I was affiliated, I think, with a Kayfabe Today episode, which had the Young Bucks in the tagline. And yeah, you're totally right. They're totally cunty online. And what the thing is, they sit around, they vanity search themselves all day. They're those kind of guys in the business that they feed off of the I don't want to say heat, because there's a difference between like crowd heat and social media heat, I feel, and I don't think it's a fair word to, I don't know. But you know what I'm saying.
Or general disdain.
There you go. General disdain is a better term.
Another category.
Yeah, I mean, I totally am on board with everything.
Young Buck talk. We can.
And the thing is, I've said this before too. They're capable of telling a good story and having psychology. I've seen them do it in matches in the past. I have literally seen them have matches where they actually told a story years ago at this point, but I've seen it. So I think in a way they're trolling fans like us who vent and get pissed off when they see that shit. They know they can work. They're just like, because it gives them more attention, good or bad. And I think for a professional wrestler at this stage of the game in 2017, unless it's a Jimmy Snuka murder trial, any exposure is good exposure, I feel. Or a sexy star thing. That's another kind of exposure I don't really think you probably want. But what's your 2 cents on that, by the way? I haven't talked to you about the sexy star, so I know it's old news at this point, but
Sexy Star and Rosemary. Well, was it you that I was on the Kayfabe Today podcast, or was it Robbie? No, I can't remember. We definitely talked about it there. Yeah, just real shitty thing to do. I didn't expect it coming from her because I wasn't aware of her prior behavior,
Yeah.
So it took me by surprise for sure, and it was like, yeah, real shitty, cunty thing to do. Hashtag cunty, by the way. Let's get that going.
Hashtag cunty. Cunty fresh. Speaking of hashtag cunty, the GFW Impact at this point. Let's go ahead and get into that. Do you think it's time for them to just fold up, wrap it up, and call it a day? Or are you one of these GFW fans that's always kind of held on for hope and defend the product? Because I don't think I've ever talked to you about it, GFW or Impact. It's Impact now. Excuse me.
Right. Impact, TNA, GFW, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, whatever
it is this week.
The Jeff Jarrett got sent home because he drinks too much Federation.
Basically, oh my god, have you seen that video? Oh,
yeah, it's
that video is depressing.
It is. Go ahead.
Anyway, yeah. Drunk Jeff Jarrett aside, my fandom pretty much died with TNA. It died with Dixie. Well, she's alive, but my fandom died with her. And that when the TNA was removed from everything, that's pretty much when I checked out too, because I was barely even watching then when it was on Destination America. So
shout out
really
real quick, Jay.
since...
We have people in the chat. I just now got the chat up. Sorry, guys, I'm behind. I got Captain. Sorry to cut you off and let you finish here in a second. I want to shout out people.
Hell
Captain
yeah,
Panda says Bullet Club should have died when Devitt went to WWE, so he wanted it to die before Styles even came.
Damn, that was a long time ago. It was like ages.
Megan Starr says cunty is a word. Mike the Slam Pig, co-host Slam Pigs podcast in the chat. What's up, Mike? Says, yes, it is. He'll send you some gold, though. So, I don't know what that... Maybe I'm out of the loop on that. I can clarify that. But thank you guys for stopping by. Sorry, Jay, to interrupt you again. Go ahead and finish your thought. I probably killed your thought, though, at this point.
I checked out...
so you were one of the... You held on to the very last dying breath of the Dixie train. The whole thing. Yeah, the whole stop. Every stop along the way. My God, you were more of a man. I fell off before Aces and Eights. I fell off before that.
I was... oh, wow, yeah, that whole thing. But yeah, I was there, but I was tuned out. I was just staring at the TV, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
When I watch Raw,
it become a habit, or it become a habit, a routine thing, in my weekly TV viewing, and but the product hadn't been good since 2009, when my boy Vinny Rue was back there on creative and writing.
See, and maybe your gut instinct's telling you that might be a debate topic. You think I think Vince Russo, say it all the time, I think he gets a bad rap. I really do. I think, I don't know if you're trolling either, by the way. So I'm gonna assume that you're pro Russo in a way, like you think he gets a bad rap, but I could be wrong.
I am very pro Russo. I listen to his podcast 5 days a week. his style of writing or booking, whatever you want to call it, it's actually a little of both. His style of
Crash TV.
television. Yeah, there you go. If that's what you want to call it. That's fine. It's catchy.
It works.
Crash
It's the
Crash
hybrid.
TV. Yeah. Balls to the wall. Start the show hot, end the show hot.
Not Balls Mahoney to the wall either. Rest in peace.
God rest his soul. Poor bastard. Took a lot of awesome chair shots for us.
I'm really good at sucking the life out of segments today. I need to stop that with death.
But yeah, Vinny Russo, big fan. Attitude Era. Working with Ed Ferrara, it wasn't just him. Then the early TNA years.
Way more Russo though. See that Ed Ferrara, that's a guy that I won't greenlight as much as Russo, because Ed Ferrara initially he came in around like King of the Ring '98 and he left with Russo around like when SmackDown first started. So really he only had a year there. Russo came in like that freelance magazine writer getting like what $90 a week from the company. He took a risk right into Linda McMahon. He was there for years as Vic Venom. So he paid, like Ed Ferrara is basically Russo's yes man. At the end of the day, that's the way I always saw Ed Ferrara. Because what did Ed Ferrara ever bring to anything when he wasn't attached to Russo's hip? Jack shit. Besides shitty dreadlock extensions. You remember that? You remember that shit?
I do.
My God.
That happened. That was a thing. I'll tell you exactly what Ed Ferrara, there you go, contributed to the Attitude Era. He was a television writer in Hollywood.
From Duckman
Hollywood
on
Land.
USA Network.
Yeah. You know, he knew, listen, they're not all winners, all right?
I didn't hate Duckman. I'm just saying that was his claim to fame. He was a failed indie wrestler. Then he had a background in writing, so he got on board with Duckman, and then he kind of, I don't want to say weaseled his way in, but he knew that, pro wrestling was on USA Network, and he was like, he put a word. I have 2 DVDs.
How to structure. Go ahead.
I have 2 DVDs of they're really old at this point. They're Inside the WWF and WCW. It's like 2 volumes, hosted by Wade Keller. I don't know if you've seen them, and he interviews Ferrara and Russo. Like, he talks about how he just basically he kind of phoned it in with his writing for Duckman to get into wrestling. So in a way, that was like, he loved the business to risk his career for it. But at the end of the day, I just feel I kind of feel like he shouldn't be in conversation at the end of the day, because he was just that yes man, like I said. But I don't know.
No, I have to disagree. He knew how to structure a television show. That was very key. It blended well with Russo's techniques, and really created some awesome TV. Like the Survivor Series '98 swerves. They did that together. The Ministry.
Ugh.
Uh,
Ugh. You like the Ministry, huh?
ugh, you say. Ugh.
Here we go. Now it's a debate, baby. Let's get to the Ministry, the corporate ministry, all of it. You were a fan.
Oh yeah, I love that. It would take less time for me to tell you what I didn't like about the Attitude Era. Like that's I'm really it's something that it's a period of time that's really close close to me, close to my heart, even because it was like my escape when I was a kid. And
yeah,
it was and WCW as well, and ECW.
That
I watched
channel
all
flip
that.
in, on the downtime, because for me WWF was my main, and then on the commercials for WWF, then I flipped it to WCW. I don't know how it was for you.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I had a couple TVs going.
I wasn't that refined, Jay.
My mom knew my mom knew there was no way she was gonna get me to go to bed that night. That was
the stupid ass thing. I never, even as a teenager, I noticed this. Because even back then, in the infancy of the internet, and you were younger than I was back then, but you were on the internet. We knew about ratings back when we were younger, right? I never understood why WCW Nitro would always have a replay of the whole show right after, because that's like cannibalizing your eyes on the first time you show the show. If they know there's going to be a replay, why are they going to watch it while there's competition? They can just watch both shows, which is what I did every week. You know what I mean? Maybe in a way, like
I see.
the total ratings they were going for. You know what I'm saying? But you want those head-to-head ratings of what the guys on the fucking around the table are looking at, not the I don't know. I never understood that though. Never. You know, for me, I
But
think the most disappointing thing in the Attitude Era is that they never, and I'm not saying he had the charisma at all to do it on his own. He would have needed a hell of a mouthpiece. They never bothered to give two shits or pull trigger on Dan Severn when he was in the company. And it just at the time your
like
money was on the table. They had Shamrock and Severn, and that was red hot at the time, coming straight out of UFC with their feud. I'm not saying it would have worked completely. I'm saying it's worth a goddamn shot. Now, I don't know his contractual stuff. I don't know any stats like that. I'm just saying that's probably for me the one of the bigger busts, the failed opportunities.
he could have used a mouthpiece. He really didn't. You know, mic skills weren't really his thing.
Yeah. But see, that's
He was
another
certainly
reason. Mouthpieces is another
legitimate.
reason that I kind of take a pass on the Attitude Era sometimes. There's no other point in wrestling where there were so few male mouthpieces. Really, in that time, you had Paul Bearer, you had Shane McMahon and Vince. That was pretty much it. I mean, and it was just TNA on your arms, and that's
Cornette
you know what I mean. Who would have been the mouthpiece? I think is the question. Maybe Cornette, but Cornette was so dated in '98. Nobody wanted to see Cornette. He wasn't edgy enough.
NWA wrestling. That would have been it. Remember that whole thing?
Is that one of your
Oh,
least favorite parts of the Attitude Era? Because it's one of mine. The
one of the least.
NWA invasion.
That's on the short. That's on the short list. High five.
Yes.
Um, really, really weird, really awkward in the middle of an Attitude Era show. So maybe not
Totally
Cornette,
unfitting.
but
Yeah.
Doc Hendricks.
At the Doc Hendricks. My God, now you're going like '95. But that NWA invasion, that the booking
Yeah.
wise, that was like shooting spitballs at a tank. You're taking this shell of a promotion for so outdated against this edgy, everybody loves it. Like it made no sense. All it did was bury guys like Barry
Yeah.
Windham and the Rock and Roll Express and made them
Oh,
seem like
man.
fucking artifacts that belong in a museum.
Cornette was just trying his damnedest to keep that flame flickering. But anyway, you still like Doc Hendricks. I thought maybe could have been maybe a mouthpiece for Severn, or trying to think of somebody else.
Hendricks
Hell,
and Severn. I'm
bring
trying
Snake
to
back.
picture Michael P.S. Hayes with Dan Severn. Like
Why not?
the ultimate
Give it a shot. Try it on a house show. See what happens.
the ultimate odd couple. Um, I don't know.
But yeah, Severn. He didn't. He couldn't really talk. Um, his voice didn't really match his demeanor. Kind of like how Nia Jax is nowadays.
You talking about
It was
Nia
very off.
Jax? How you doing,
Oh,
Jay?
hello.
Hi,
Hi,
baby.
Nia. Great to meet you.
I
How are you
wouldn't
doing
miss
today?
this for the world.
Thank you for coming to the debate. I really appreciate it.
Gotta go. Got more guys to blow. I could rhyme, didn't you know? See you on Kayfabe today this week.
All right.
Thank you, Naya,
Hey,
for stopping by.
she's
In the
not like
Attitude
most,
Era, Michael
like three.
Hayes, he was kind of a mouthpiece for the Hardy. I feel like they didn't let him talk a lot, and he looked really dumb in Jenko jeans. It just didn't look right. It's like when your dad tries to dress like your friends to make you seem like he's cool.
Yeah, he's cool. He's hip.
I didn't
He's with
hate
it.
the Hardys beating the Acolytes though with Michael Hayes. That was probably more of my favorite things from the Attitude Era too. A young Hardys team getting a shot like that was pretty good television.
Yeah, I like that. I liked how they brought them in for sure. And then Edge and Christian. Then the Dudleys came, and that whole thing, that all went down. Man, it was such a fun time. And I know, and people might say like, oh, you were a kid. It seems like it was the best time ever. But I go back and I watch it now at 26, and it still clicks.
Yeah. It it holds up a lot more I would say to a modern fan trying to get into the older content, or someone like you that's just doing it for nostalgia, it holds up a lot more than an episode of Saturday Night's Main Event from like '89. That takes a true fan to get through a whole episode of those older shows, I feel like, at this point, because the fast pace in ring that started in the Attitude Era, I feel, for one.
I would not agree with that. Saturday Night Main Event is awesome.
Well, I'm not saying for me or you, but I see that perspective for people where it would be easier to get into Attitude Era content more than like for that fan, I would say that thrives off of back and forth, fucking, you know what I mean? But let's stop seeing eye to eye because that's not working. Let's back it up to this ministry stuff.
Oh yeah,
I guess the main reason, what did it really do? Like on paper, concept of the Undertaker finally having a stable. I think the first. Initially, it was handled okay. I think on that, was it No Mercy or Capital Carnage when it was in its infancy that we reviewed on, I don't remember, on Union Smack, but it was in the earlier stages of it when they first added the Brood. And then the Brood left for no fucking reason. I didn't hate it. At the time, I didn't hate it, but it just got more hokey, and the Vince thing flat out killed it. I don't know if you like Vince being the power the whole time, the Howard power, as Undertaker likes to say. We all come across it. I just think for all of the hokey bullshit and the Midian matches and everything we had to sit through, for the payoff to just be something that was already a year of an angle before, it was ridiculous, and I hated it. And I think Undertaker's flat out came and say it's his least favorite time in his career. I think.
Wow, really?
Maybe one of you guys in the chat know that for sure can correct me, or in the comments down below. But I'm almost 100%. Undertaker's come out in interviews and said that is his most embarrassing time as a performer. Is the ministry.
Even worse than Master of Pain in Memphis.
I think he just blocks that out. I think I think when he says career, I think he doesn't even bring Memphis to the dinner table. It's like it's not even an appetizer. It's like fucking
wow.
Yeah, which is.
But yeah,
you know.
So the Ministry of Darkness, which became the corporate ministry, was really essentially it was Steve Austin versus the world, and wanted you to get behind Steve Austin even more than they are, people already were. And so they were that was, I think, their purpose, and I think they served it well.
I mean, at the expense of us having to sit through matches with Midian.
Well,
And I'm talking about they gave Midian time back. I've reviewed matches on this channel where Midian matches went 8 to 9 minutes. And that might not sound like that long nowadays, but you go back and watch fucking Midian wrestle an Attitude Era guy, which is more times than not a punch kick fest for 8 fucking minutes. I do it for you guys. For Christ's sakes.
Naked Midian's where it's at.
Naked Midian was fun because he didn't wrestle. He ran in, he gave me a smile.
He tried to hug the opponent. They ran away. It was great.
Yeah.
It was great stuff.
He made everybody sick, and then he left, and he did his job. Way better than working a match.
Yeah.
Here we go. Look at this. Megan Starr in the chat. Believe it or not, I would have never thought this would have came out of her mouth. You ready, Jay? She says the corporate ministry was good. I was just about to ask you, when it became the corporate ministry, did it jump the shark, or you still thought it was okay?
Again, just stacking the odds even more against the Austin and Rock. Eventually turned face too. So,
because I feel like if anything, the shining parts out of this turn of an angle were when like it was two heel factions. You had the corporate ministry, or excuse me, the corporation and the ministry kind of at odds with each other. Who wants Austin more? And that made it more interesting. And then for Vince to be the guy all along, and then just to be one thing, it was so lazy, and it made it not worth it for me.
Dude, I remember popping when I watching that live. He takes the hood off. It was me. Like,
it was me, Austin.
It was me, Austin.
Yep.
I remember as a kid going, "God damn it," in my head, not out loud, because my mother would have slapped me.
Angry Jay, just ready to go through his television.
Oh, dude, so many times I came close to breaking the TV.
I think during this time,
thank God my mom had an eye on me.
during this time to elicit that reaction from me at like 14 or 15 or 16 in these years. Believe it or not, it wasn't from WWF television. I would only get that mad and want to break my television when like Hollywood Hogan would retain on WCW because at that point nobody wanted
Ooh,
to.
yeah.
And credit to Hogan for being that good of a heel. Like you hated when Hogan had a title because you knew it was going to suck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He completely reinvented himself, man. Completely. Just Hulk Hogan was new again, you know?
Yeah. I mean, at the time we didn't appreciate it, I think, because Hulk Hogan, even as Hollywood, was not edgy. He was one of the more laid back heels at that time. And I think that made him boring to us in a way, and we wanted to see him get beat more. But looking back, it was a masterful strategy because he could have been more edgy, but he knew what he was doing. And I don't think he gets enough credit for that character at that time. And it just made it made people invest the money to pay to watch a show to get him beat, for him to be beat. And that's what you want to do in wrestling at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Jay, we're
That's
running
what
out of time, but flat out, the worst thing ever, in your opinion, to come out of the Attitude Era, angle, wrestler, match, anything, in your opinion.
Oh, the worst thing. Wow, the worst thing.
It's
Beaver
toughie.
cleavage. Beaver cleavage.
You have
Yeah,
raised the bar so
that
goddamn
was
high.
rough. That was. I can't. I can't defend that, guys.
Yeah.
That was questionable. Um, and I'll throw in, like earlier we talked about the whole NWA angle, NWA invasion, as
Yeah.
they worded it.
Well, there you go. The worst thing ever from the Attitude Era is beaver cleavage. And ironically, shout out to the Social Injustice Warrior on his channel. I just appeared in a collaboration dressed up as Headbanger Mosh, taking a look at the life and times of beaver cleavage. So check that out. Subscribe over there. Look at this guy. This guy. This
Very nice.
unprepared segue. My dog's even barking. He's so excited. Real quick, the worst thing out of the Attitude Era for me, I could go on and on for days. I could go on and on for. You got the oddities. There's a big one, Jay, that doesn't get enough praise for how bad it was.
Disagree.
Disagree. Go ahead. You
Disagree
think?
with you
I mean,
there.
ICP was definitely popular and marketable, but Kurgan,
Entertaining.
Giant Silva,
Entertaining, man. Like I said it earlier, I love me some wacky stuff in wrestling, and that's certainly one of them. One of the things. One of the stables that just it's insanity, and I love it.
here's an unpopular opinion. I was a really big, huge D'Lo Brown fan, and the match he had with Jeff Jarrett at SummerSlam '99 when D'Lo was both the European and Intercontinental title. I know they opened the show, but D'Lo got an insane reaction. He was so over, and I think he was going to break out. And unfortunately, the draws match, and I think the company he kind of
Oh
sat,
wow, yeah.
unfortunately. But D'Lo Brown was one of those guys I loved that a lot of people wouldn't think back then. He did a great job of like coming into his own. I feel from what he was given initially, he's just like a bodyguard for Nation of Domination. Nation of Domination is one of the best things I feel, Jay, from the Attitude Era as far as controversy and
Right on.
eliciting reaction. But for me, the all-time biggest blunder, worst thing from the Attitude Era was got to be, and I know it's cliche now because so many people have done it, but it's cliche because it's true. The Brawl for All was the biggest waste of time. It hurt your roster. Literally, it hurt your fucking roster because these guys are getting injured left and right. It The payoff was one of the worst payoffs in the history of any angle or theme in wrestling with the 2-second knockout of Bart Gunn. Just not good business. Just a true example of one of Russo and Ferraro and all those guys' biggest blunders. For as
Well,
much good as I say they did back then, that's one of their biggest blunders ever in that company was the Brawl for All.
well, we're not gonna end this on an agreement.
Oh my God.
Brawl
I've
for all.
never heard anyone defend the Brawl for All in the history of our sport,
Seriously,
Tony Schiavone. Ever.
there's got to be somebody out there. Come on,
It,
somebody out there.
there's got to be.
Who,
Anybody in the chat like the Brawl for All? But go ahead, Jay. Jesus Christ. I can't.
it tickles me. It tickles me when people bury the brawl for all. Oh, it was, what were the rules? What was it? They clearly state the rules. 5 points for a takedown, 10 points for a knockdown, 1 minute rounds. Like it was.
But you're
Like, it wasn't
stating the
that
rules to an
difficult.
audience who have been force-fed for years to only go off of like 2 or 3 rules. They're simplified rules, and you're complicating it off the gate for your fucking
It
audience.
wasn't
If
that
it's
bad.
going to be boxing, make it boxing. That's confusing enough that I'm watching
It was
boxing on a
boxing.
wrestling show. But no, let's make it a fucking hybrid of MMA and make it this Strike Force shit and just plunge it in for no reason in the middle of programming in the summertime. It, ugh.
It got
Ugh.
over. It got over, kids. Go
It
back and
didn't get
watch.
over. It did not get
It got.
over.
It
People
got
chanted
over.
boring every week. They chanted we want
Yeah.
wrestling.
Week one. The week one. Because they didn't know what they were seeing, but they got into it, man. As the weeks went along, I assure you.
I'm not gonna
I assure
lie.
you.
Yes, there were reactions. The crowd would pop at knockouts and stuff. I just think confusing your audience is one of the worst things you could do. Because also, they don't know if it's a shoot or a work. I know that's a good thing sometimes, but when you're totally taking a left turn on your show and changing the format, I don't know if everything based off of a working confusion is totally good sometimes. There's got to be some kind of streamline. Okay, I get this. I get what's going on now. Let's see what happens. But that for me, even going back, I've gone back and I watched the graphic for the rules of bringing and the way they describe it, and Jim Ross raining down or whoever they had also doing it on certain weeks. It was just like, man, they really tried to streamline this fast and not a lot of legs to it, and just kind of like it did. It literally it came out of nowhere with not, and it wasn't like vignettes like this is coming, pal, in a couple weeks. No, it was like this week. These guys got boxing gloves on. Bart
Have you
Gunn's a
heard the
singles
story?
wrestling. Good.
Have you? I was just
I've
gonna say,
listened to
like,
a
have you
ton of
heard this?
Of course, everyone's listening to Cornette's take on the Brawl for All. He fucking it. But I've listened to a good, numerous standpoints. Of like,
Know whose idea that was?
good.
Take a wild guess whose idea the brawl for all was.
I've heard from multiple things that I've seen. Vinny Rue.
It was Vinny Rue,
Yes,
my boy, genius,
Vinny the Rue.
Vinny the Rue. It was all him because he heard Bradshaw backstage talking smack about how if this were real, he could beat everybody up, and that sparked the pitch to Vince McMahon, that is, and boom, brawl for all.
Those guys in '98, they were
I
just
do
lucky
agree.
Haku wasn't on the roster. Because let's be real, Haku would have eaten people's fucking arms and shit.
You tore limbs off. You're absolutely correct. Started gnawing on them. But yeah, man, I do agree that they could have done some vignettes. That would have been cool.
Well, you know what
Some
else
lead
has
up
been cool, Jay?
vignettes.
You know what else has been cool? And I'm sorry to cut you off, but I am completely out of time. We've gone over like 30 minutes as it is, but I want to thank you so much, man, for coming on once again. It's been a blast, and you're welcome back anytime, man.
Oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. If I could throw out a few Twitter handles before we go.
Of course, by all means. I was going to say, where can everyone check you out, your shows, and all the stuff you do?
Well, on the Twitter, at Tweets of Jay Baca. That's at Tweets of JayBaca. WLWstudios.com is the podcast network that I am the Lucha liaison for. Follow them on Twitter at WLW Studios. The flagship program of WLWstudios.com, The Midnight Jury, where they cover all things 80s and 90s pop culture and horror. At Midnight Jury on Twitter. Handsome Dan's Final Say at Dan's Final Say, where he is currently in the middle of a Hulkamania retrospective. I believe he just wrapped up 1988, so he's heading into the pretty soon to WrestleMania 5. So Handsome Dan's Final Say, and then
One of my
the Squared
favorite
Circle
WrestleManias.
Sound Off. Oh, right on. Same here. It's certainly up there. But the Squared Circle Sound Off with Sean O'Brien, that's where you'll find me in my Lucha Lounge, where I review Lucha Underground and I talk Wrestle Circus. Sean, follow him on Twitter at Sean Neutron. That's SeanNeutron. He talks all things WWE, and he almost always has a guest on, an independent wrestler or a promoter or a manager. Past include Donovan Dijak, Matt Cross, aka Son of Havoc from Lucha Underground, Jimmy Rave, Joey Janela. So you can follow that show at SCSO Pod, and that's every Thursday night. There you have it. WLWstudios.com, or go to the TuneIn Radio app, type in Midnight Jury, and you'll find all the shows there.
Wow. I thought I had a lot of shows to plug. Good God, but
yeah,
beautiful.
Man. I held my breath there.
Most definitely. Guys, get over there and check out Jay's stuff. Follow him on Twitter, all that good stuff. Jay, thank you again, man, coming on for the great debate. Until next time, as always, follow me on Twitter at TheHibiki. Check out the reset button with myself and Tan. And if you're into retro gaming, Slam Pigs Podcast, myself and Michael. Slam Pigs Cruise Control with Colin Dunn and Logan Myers from Future Wrestling Podcast. Our 205 Live weekly show, which is pretty much picking up the pace lately. Can't hate on what they're doing. They took a risk, and it seems like it's paying off. They got eyes on the product. But of course, until next time, also follow me on, or check me out, I should say, on Kayfabe Today podcast with First thing in the morning on YouTube. Get over there and subscribe. Everyone that stopped by in the live chat today, Megan Starr, Mike the Slam Pig, Captain Panda, thank you guys so much. Until next time, this is Hibiki High Spots, the great debate with Jay Baca. See you then.
It's been fun, man. Talk
Later,
to you later.
Jay. Have a good one, guys.